welcome back to Voices. I'm Stephen Angle. We're at the Schoeni Gallery on Old Bailey Street in Hong Kong, and our guest is right over here, Nicole Schoeni, the director of the gallery. So we're in the realism corner?
Yes, this is all the realism artists.
And it's fairly new in China, isn't it? The
movement, if you will. They formed only just recently in 2004.
Okay.
And it's quite worth noting because actually as a gallery we were one of the few who represented both school of thoughts, both the realism and the avant-garde.
Right. This one is an interesting piece. Wang Yidong.
Yes.
Very famous in China. This was a museum piece?
It was a museum piece.
I wonder if you can come on in and you can see some of the detail in this painting. Tell me about this one.
Wang Yidong, like you said, I think he's actually the most famous living realism artist today. He's in his 50s, so the older generation, and very much their school of thought is all about purity, the innocence, the skill of the medium. So it's quite different from the cynical realist artists.
Can I be a realist and ask you, how much does this cost?
Roughly? Let's say it's over 10 million Hong Kong dollars.
So a few paychecks.
Yes, a few, just a few.
Let's walk down here and see some of these other. These are again the realists in
These
China.
are all the realism artists. You have Zhang Li here, and Li Guijun. Li Guijun is actually the protege of one of the older realism artists. Also one of my favorites and a very good friend. Then you have Ai Xuan, who was with Wang Yidong. He was one of the founders of the realism school. Which, by the way, they have annual exhibitions at the National Museum of Fine Art in Beijing.
She has a sadness in her eyes.
They all have a sort of sadness. It's about the sort of the cold, the isolation.
Is that today's China? It's
not
richer.
Yes.
But there is we'll get to talking about that as well, but there is a gap between the rich and the poor.
There is a very big gap, yes.
Would you say, how many of these artists have come from a poor background?
I would say the majority of them actually started in poor backgrounds, but today, of course, is very different. They have the biggest cars, the biggest houses, the most beautiful wives.
Sounds like Mao Zedong a bit. A little cult of personality. I see one here over here because I was just in Wanghao Daido Dong, Queens Road East, in a little smaller gallery than this one.
Mm-hmm.
A replica was about 500 Hong Kong dollars.
Yes, that's a replica.
I assume this is not $500,000.
No, maybe
500 Hong Kong dollars. Yeah.
A few, 100 times that amount.
100 times.
Yes.
Tell me, in the art world, is it a compliment to be copied? Because intellectual property can swing both ways. I mean, a DVD, if you copy it, it's ripping the artist off. If somebody copies this and sells it for 500 Hong Kong dollars, is that illegal? Is that wrong?
It becomes illegal once they actually sign and forge the signature, which I haven't seen myself. In a way, I see it as a compliment. It is a compliment, and it does help. It's kind of like promotion. It gets that imagery out there and recognized. So I don't see it so much as a problem. And also, of course, if you know the artists, you can tell immediately between a real and a fake.
Basically, the person who's going to actually afford this and buy this is not going to go, but I can get one for 500 down at this. Let's take a look at this one, because again, another Yue Min Jun.
Yes.
The smiling face. This is a series, what? Tell me about it. It's 8 + 8 - 1.
That's right, yeah. It was a project which we did in 1997, and my father had asked 15 artists in total. He actually gave them all of these small canvases and asked them to paint on it in the vein of our gallery's focus, which is figurative art.
And these are some very famous artists. This is the Bloodline series,
yes.
I believe.
Zhang Xiaogang. This is what, basically, most of the artists who were in the show, they've become the big names today. And all of the collection has already been sold, so already belonging in collections. And they come up constantly in auction houses.
This is another one that's been copied a lot. Again, we're talking a lot about Yue Min Jun today, simply because he is the record setter. It is a very unique art. And it's a self-portrait, isn't it? All his work is self-portrait.
Yes.
What does the smile mean? What do you think?
Well, he belongs to the cynical realism school. So a lot of it, I think, is sarcasm. And he's sort of cynical about the world we live in today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very much what it's about.
Because I know in my experiences in China, when faced with a problem, a laugh can mean many different things. It doesn't mean that they're laughing at you. They're either uncomfortable with the situation or something like that. So I guess he's
hiding behind the laugh.
Hiding behind
the laugh, yeah. Although today I'm sure his laugh is genuine.
Yeah. He's doing pretty well, isn't he? Yeah. Tell me about these other ones here, too, because this one, I believe, is going to be, this artist is going to have one up at an auction here in Hong Kong this month.
Yeah. Yeah. He belongs to the same generation of artists.
He's not smiling, but he's wearing a mask. What's the story behind his style of art?
Again, part of the cynical realism school. I think a lot of it is also about the identity, about the issue of identity in China. You know, with Cultural Revolution, there was the masses, and everyone was the same and considered the same. So a lot of it is sort of hiding your true self behind a mask.
Let's try to look at some of this other art, because we'll move. Which wing is this?
This section here is actually our 10 exclusive artists.
Okay.
We have Zhao Fang, for example. He's one of our younger artists in his early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one, I mentioned about the widening gap between the rich and the poor. This is Shenhua.
That's right, yeah.
About the whole issue of the countryside moving to the cities, the urbanization and the struggles that the people in the countryside. This man is actually from a poor background, isn't he?
Yes.
Tell me about, let's bring it over and we can show it on the cameras here.
Shenhua is actually, he belongs to that class. His parents are farmers, peasant farmers. And when I had met him, he was already in his 30s, but still wanted to become an artist, which was difficult for him because of financial constraint. So for the first time, actually, in our history, we sponsor him fully in terms of, he's doing a master's at the Sichuan Academy.
Okay.
So this series is actually about how he feels that within China, the Nongmin, the workers, the workers, they're still looked down upon and they're stared at. So he's giving the audience an opportunity to stare him right in the face.
He's still got the mobile phone, though.
It's classic.
Still got the mobile phone. He might
the
be
classic
a
one.
worker. All right, Nicole, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be back in 2 minutes' time for our final few minutes here at the Schoeni Art Gallery. And we're going to talk about what the next 15 years are in store for Chinese contemporary art, because Schoeni is celebrating its 15th anniversary this week in Hong Kong. We'll be right back.